All right, welcome back, Mr. Walker. I'm happy you came back to meet with me. How you doing today?
Doing good.
Good. Okay. Sound a little more up than last time. You ready to get things started?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Awesome. Okay, so first thing we're going to talk about is I'm going to go back over our disclosure statement just so you, as a reminder of confidentiality and all of those things we talked about before. So as a reminder, I am still currently a graduate student working on the completion of my master's degree in professional counseling. I am currently practicing counseling techniques and therefore will be recording our session, but only my professor and classmates will see the tape. The recording will be destroyed at the end of the semester. Likewise, you should know that there are some limitations to my counseling, so please note that it's not possible for me to guarantee any specific results regarding your counseling goals. However, together we will work towards achieving the best possible results for you. Okay. And again, all of the rights that we discussed previously are still intact, and you've got a document with all of those rights on them in case you ever need to look back and refer to them, okay? And just a reminder for everything that's confidential, everything will be confidential except for these things, and these are very important to remember. But if I determine that you are in imminent danger to yourself or others, you report child and elder abuse or neglect. If your records are subpoenaed by a court of law, if you disclose sexual contact with a mental health professional with whom you've had a professional relationship, if information is requested by your contract provider, so an HMO, insurance company, or EAP, and if I'm directed by you in writing to disclose information to someone you chose. Okay? All right. So just to clarify, you're okay with being recorded?
Yes.
All right, so now that we went over that, I wanted to revisit some things we talked about last week. So last time we met, we talked about there are some things going on with maybe feeling a little extra sad, more so than usual. Is that still going on?
Yeah.
Yeah, still feeling sad. So what's kind of going on with that? I know you had mentioned grief.
So my grandma died a few weeks ago, and I'm just kind of working through it.
Okay, what does that working through it look like so far?
I'm just sad. It was unfortunate circumstances. It was an abusive relationship she was in. It was a lot, and I really wasn't present during that time because I live several hours away, and then I was just kind of hearing about it through phone calls, and so I'm just kind of working through everything, listening to what family has to say about it, and yeah.
Okay, so what is the family? Who's the family that's communicating these things?
So it's my mom and my dad.
Okay.
It was my dad's mom, and yeah, it was just a big series of events.
Okay. So you mentioned it was an abusive relationship. Who is that abuse coming from?
Yeah, so my grandfather was abusing my grandmother.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Did that add into anything for you?
I didn't like it.
Yeah.
I dislike my grandfather because of that.
Okay. So maybe dealing with a little bit of that disliking might be coming into play somewhere.
Yes.
Okay. So you mentioned that you were close with your grandmother. What did y'all's relationship look like?
I would just go over periodically. When I lived close, I would go over multiple times a week just to check on her and see how she was doing. During that time, my grandfather was there, but I didn't know he was abusive, so I was checking up on both of them.
Okay.
And once I went off to college, I could only see him during the breaks and every several months. They were up in years, so I knew they were gonna die at some point. My grandfather's still alive.
Okay.
but so I was kind of anticipating them, to die. But I didn't expect like the last 2 years of my grandmother's life to be like her being held at gunpoint by my grandfather, or like the other side of my family fighting over the inheritance when my grandmother dies and different things. So it's just kind of been a lot. So
definitely. So is that impacting your family as well?
I mean, yeah, my dad's been really upset as of recently. I mean, now that it's been a few weeks, he's doing a lot better. But I mean, it's like 2 of his brothers died. His dad basically disowned him and tried to manipulate him. His mother died, and so literally the only remaining family he has that hasn't disowned him is one brother and his direct family, and then my dad and his wife and his kids. And so he's been through a lot, and he's gotten it way worse than I have, just kind of dealing with stuff. But yeah, that's kind of what's been going on.
Yeah. So I hear you said he's been dealing with it a lot worse than you have.
Yeah.
Does that...
I mean, it's his mom, it's not my mom. Yeah. So, like, he's, like, whatever I'm feeling, I'm sure Dad's feeling like 100 times more. So,
yeah.
He doesn't really talk about it. We kind of keep our feelings to ourselves. I'm kind of taking a step out, just, telling you all these things.
Yeah.
But, yeah, Dad's, like, quiet and doesn't talk to a lot of people about those sorts of things. So.
Well, first I want to commend you for taking that step and being able to recognize that this isn't something you do or something y'all's family is used to. So that's a big step, definitely. So what brought you to make this step?
My wife recommended it.
Your wife?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that's wonderful. So is your wife a big support to you?
Yeah, you could say she's kind of like a counselor in her own right, of just like, kind of is available when I need to talk about things, or I'm available to her when she needs to talk about things, usually more often than I need to talk about things. But yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, that's really, really important to have a social support when you're experiencing these things. And so what has grief looked like for you lately?
Lately? I don't know, just feeling sorry for my dad a lot.
Okay.
Because ultimately, yeah, I was close with my grandma, but I mean, I'm more close with my dad and he was more close with her. So I feel sorry, but indirectly for her more through him. I've also been angry at different points, just angry at my grandfather. It's like I haven't talked to him in 2 years, and if he called me, I wouldn't know what he would say, whether he would, try to be on my side or disown me like he did my dad. But just kind of angry that this abuse was going on this whole time, more than likely through my childhood and before that, and I just didn't notice and couldn't see any of it because it hadn't been brought to light yet, and so it just kind of makes me mad, and to see him kind of be the root of evil in the family as far as like fighting over the inheritance, and him just kind of harboring this abusiveness that likely was probably passed down to different individuals on that side of the family and whatnot. I didn't see it on my side of the family, but I know that some of the people on the extended relatives and whatnot are more angry people and more physical and just kind of cutthroat in that way. So,
So you said anger has been where would you pinpoint that anger?
What do you mean by pinpoint?
Where would you place that anger?
What do you mean by place?
Okay. So do you feel you're angry at somebody?
Yes.
Okay.
My grandfather.
So you would place that anger on your grandfather?
I am 100% angry at my grandfather.
Okay.
For all the abuse and everything.
Yeah. Okay. That's understandable. So you mentioned that you most likely won't be speaking to your grandfather. You haven't spoken to him
No, I won't talk to him.
In 2 years.
No.
Is that something you want to do? Or are there things you wish you could say to him?
The things I wish I could say to him, I don't need to say out loud. So.
Yeah.
No, probably not. I don't think I would get anything out of saying anything to him. There is a part of me that's just kind of curious what he would say to me.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't have anything worth saying to him. Nothing nice, anyways. And yeah, I am totally satisfied never talking to him again. So.
Okay, and what about your grandmother? What does that feel like to not be able to talk to her?
I'm okay with it now.
Mm-hmm.
At first I was a little sad because it's like I was going through the motions of like remembering this person was with me through my childhood and like at Christmas and Thanksgiving and those sorts of things and at church and whatnot. But ultimately I did know that she was going to die at some point, and I knew that was going to be soon. I wish it would have been a little smoother, if that makes sense. Not like for me, but for her. Of like, I wish the abuse didn't happen, and I wish she wasn't subject to all of that as she was passing away and as she was dying. But I don't know that I would say anything other than just like, I'm sorry, and I wish, we could have known about this earlier. So.
Yeah. Okay. So, what I'm going to try with you real quick, there is a practice that we do in counseling. It's called the empty chair. And so what we do in the empty chair is, whether it's speaking to someone who's gone, somebody who's still with us that you're unable to talk to, or even just preparing for a conversation you need to have at a later time, or talking to a situation or about a situation, even if you're not talking to a person.
Yeah.
But what I want you to do is, I'd like you to, we've got a chair over here, and I'd like you to envision for a moment that your grandmother is there.
Okay.
And
like alive?
Yes.
Okay.
So where she, as if she could hear you and she's listening.
Yeah.
And I want you to share with her some of the things you wish you could share with her.
Okay.
Just whenever you're ready, you can take your time.
Am I supposed to imagine her like responding to me too, or just?
It's up to you.
I feel like that's weird.
Okay.
I feel like this whole thing is weird.
Yeah.
To be honest.
That's fair.
Okay. Should I call her by her name?
You can call her by whatever you want to call her by. So if you called her grandma, you can call her grandma.
Okay. I called her Mimi.
Mimi.
So.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey Mimi. I'm sorry you had to go through everything that you went through at the end of your life. And I'm sorry for all the abuse that you went through your entire life. I don't think it's fair that you grew up in a time where you couldn't talk about those things. Like, I don't think it's fair that now we live in a time where, the second somebody's abused, they have a million resources available to them, but you grew up in a time where abuse was cultural and tradition, and Granddaddy used that to his advantage to manipulate you, and that's not fair, and no human being should have to sit through that, especially for 60 years, as long as you did. And I wish we could have seen it. I was a kid, but I wish, my dad or his brothers could have seen it or picked up on it and said something. I wish somebody would have said something. Out of all the churches y'all were at, I wish somebody would have said something and gotten you out of that situation. I wish you would have believed in divorce so you could have gotten out of that abusive relationship. But I am glad you're at rest now. I'm glad you're dead because you don't have to suffer anymore. I don't think you'll ever have to see Granddaddy again. And I'm just sorry that, there wasn't anything that I could do to help. I'm sorry that you didn't have, more time enjoying your family and less time living in fear of what your husband was going to do. I'm not sure what I would have done had I had known about the abuse, but I don't know what there is to do anymore now that you're gone. So I guess you can just kind of rest easy knowing that you're with two of your sons, and we miss you, and that we loved you, and you did a good job while you were here on earth. So Granddaddy has pretty much disowned my side of the family, but I think that's okay because we've disowned him too. So again, I'm sorry for all the hurt that he caused, and I hope that one day it catches up to him and he realizes that all the harm he did was evil, and that he had no place to do that, and he's going to have to pay for that, whether it be this life or the next. So yeah, but I love you, Mimi, and I'll see you in a little while. So I'm done.
You're done?
Yeah.
How did that feel?
Weird.
Yeah. Explain weird for me.
It felt like I was just getting out a bunch of stuff. It didn't feel like I was talking to a real person.
Yeah. So. A lot of times that's the point. To kind of say the things that we don't ever say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you find yourself not saying things out loud a lot?
Yes.
So a lot of times we can do that when we're experiencing depression or grief.
Mm-hmm.
Grief especially. And especially, you mentioned that your family does not talk about things. That's something you've been taught, right?
No.
So what I want for you to do before our next session is I want you to get yourself a journal, and whenever she crosses your mind or something else in life, because life always has something to add, I want you to write down those feelings. And I want you to do that at least 3 times this next week. And sit down and just write what you're feeling.
Okay.
Do you think that's something you could
do? I can do that.
Okay. All right. Do you have any questions for me?
Nope.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for coming in. I will see you next week.
All right.